Hi, everyone.
Hello. Oh no. Oh no.
Let's try that again.
Let's try that again.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Gwen Callahan. I'm the co-director of the HP Lovecraft Film Festival, and joining me for the last Q&A of the streaming edition is my husband and partner, Brian Callahan, the other co-director of the HP Lovecraft Film Festival.
How's everyone doing?
You guys doing okay? You
Yeah.
can unmute yourself.
You can talk now.
Okay.
I mean, this festival has been a fun time the whole time, so I've been really enjoying it.
Good. It was really great to meet all of you in person at the in-person festival, and it's nice to see you again here. We thought that Joe Michaud from the writer-director of Jade was going to be able to join us, but it turns out he is still on a flight, and I don't know if he's gonna be able to pop in. We're probably not going to see him, so that's okay. If you've got questions, there's some activity in the Discord server. I think everyone's just kind of watching films right now and not really chatting very much. But over the next few days, the Discord server is always on. So anytime you guys can join and pop in there, the URL's right at the bottom of the screen. And encourage the filmmakers to just kind of check in every now and then and see if anyone has asked a question about their films for them.
Yeah.
So we are joined by Bryce Brown, creator of The Color Out of Space, Christina Acevedo of The Pointy Slippers, and I'm not gonna, let's see if I can get all your names, Blaine Taggart, Patrick Murphy, and Mike, I don't know that I know your last name, I'm sorry.
Carol.
Mike Carroll.
Carol with a T. Like terror. Terrell.
Terrell. Mike Terrell of The Whisperer. So welcome and thank you for joining us for the Q&A. All of your films are funny in some way, and Christina's also got some really grody, awesome body horror in it, and Bryce's is like a really very creative adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's story, The Color Out of Space. And then Patrick, Blaine, and Mike, you guys have created yet another like comedic take on a Lovecraft story. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's fun. Lovecraft's hilarious. I don't know what people say. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Apparently Lovecraft was fun at parties. So take that for what. That's what they said. He said he enjoyed having people sort of, he enjoyed meeting people he didn't know because he felt he could tell them stories and usually could get them to laugh and stuff, which is it's weird because it's not how you think of Lovecraft when you think of Lovecraft. That's, you don't think he's a funny dude, but apparently he was a funny dude.
Well, I mean, Herbert West Reanimator is a funny story.
Yeah, he has a few funny stories.
Sweet Ermengarde is kind of a funny story, and like he's got definitely a sense of humor that I think we overlook because of the flowery Gothic prose and things like that. But while we're on the subject for The Whisperer, what inspired you, other than like the fact that you just said Lovecraft is a funny guy, but is horror, like horror comedy seems to be kind of your wheelhouse, and is there a particular reason for that? Like, do you just love horror comedy, or do you just find that the subject matter lends itself to a sort of comedic approach?
Yeah, it's horror and comedy are both difficult because they both require timing, and if you can have a great horror film, but if the timing's off, it's just gonna fall flat. And the same thing with comedy. And so I just think we just kind of approach it from horror and comedy are just two sides of the same coin, and they go together, I think, really really well. And it's I mean, Evil Dead 2, that's pretty much the film that changed my life when I was a kid, and I saw that, and it's like, okay, this is that to me was like that defining moment of this is what I want to do, is I want to make horror comedies. And so when we got together, we all love horror films, we all love comedy films, and so when we write, that's what we're pretty much doing, is just trying to just write something that's funny and kind of macabre at the same time?
We since we started going to the HP Lovecraft Film Festival before we took over the organizing and hosting of it, which we started doing that in 2011. But it's been going on since the first one was 1996. But we started going to it back around 2002, and funny adaptations of Lovecraft stories have always been a part of the fabric of the festival. Like it's always just been a thing, and they're usually the audience favorites. You know, so you think it's a bunch of horror fans getting into an auditorium to watch, you know, horrible, grisly, depressing movies about cosmic horror, and most of them are looking forward to the funny ones with tentacles. You know,
right? Right? Bed props and cultist robes and things.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I think in those cases, like the more ridiculous, the more enjoyable they are sometimes.
I think so. Yeah, it's the best audience in the world. We keep saying that because it's true. Well, you were all at the festival, right? I mean, it's a great crowd. They're a funny crowd. They love watching movies that are humorous, and they're really reactive. A lot of them stick around for Q&As. It's like nothing we've ever seen anyplace else. And that's really a testament to the audience that Andrew built when he started the thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them have been coming for, you know, well over a decade at this point or more. Yeah. For Christina, I'm so glad that you made it here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I don't think, did we cross paths at the festival at all? Did I have a chance to talk to you at all?
In the lobby, we may have said hello. I think I definitely spent more time chatting with Gwen, but yeah. It was a brief moment.
I really loved the sort of the black and white sort of art house, European art house style film that you made with the pointy slippers.
Thank you.
And as Gwen mentioned, it's got great body horror. What was the initial idea there? Did you know that was going to be a gruesome film, a gruesome film from the beginning? Was that part of the original idea?
I mean, that's a really good question, because no one's asked me that, and it's interesting to think, did I know? And I think, you know, my interests lie really strong in practical effects and working with prosthetics. And so at the time that I was developing this idea, I was working on other projects with the special effects makeup artist really closely when I was living in Los Angeles. And then I must have known, thinking back to it now, because when I moved to Philadelphia, which was where I decided I have to make this film, before I even got into pre-production, like with a producer, I was researching special effects makeup artists in Philadelphia, and I already had someone in mind. And so it was really interesting that I found that person before I found my producers and the locations. So clearly I knew that it had to be spectacular. And then also in the script, the ideas that I had for the breakdown scene and some blister popping and explosions, that was definitely written in there. But I don't think, even though I knew I wanted it, I think it really took to finding that makeup artist what exactly the shapes of the blisters would look like and how they could be molded. And then it wasn't until she sent me the different stages and the breakdowns of all of the work that it became real to me.
It's very what's that word for fear of like a bunch of little holes?
Trypophobia.
Yes. I don't know, some younger generations told me that that's trending right now, that particular fear. It's come up in conversation a couple of times for me recently.
I feel like it's been sort of popular.
Maybe 2022 we played a film called, I think it was called Holes. Mm-hmm. Right, and it was fully exploitive of that fear for its entire, like, it was like a 17-minute film or something like that. And like, you can only imagine people that actually legitimately have that fear were hiding their eyes because it was grotesque.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, the scene where she pops the blister and the ooze comes out is really hard for a lot of people to watch.
And yet so satisfying in a way.
Yeah, sort of comes from both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, ew, I bet that felt really good.
Have you all had a chance to watch any of the films? Like, have you been streaming at all?
Yep.
Not streaming this time, but at the festival, I tried to see as many as I could.
Yeah, yeah. I want to jump over to Bryce a little bit. It was great meeting you in person, by the way, and thank you for hanging out with us at the karaoke bar. That was cool.
Thank you.
One of the things that it's, you know, your film is a little silly at times, but it's also a quasi serious adaptation, right? And one of the things I really enjoyed was the color, like the way he did that sort of like red blue flashing thing that's happening, and it was as if you were sort of exploiting the very idea that Lovecraft was talking about, which was this impossible colors notion that I think The Color Out of Space or From Beyond, it was one of those stories where he had just attended a lecture on impossible colors, and so he was like started writing about that conceit. Is that something you're aware of? Is that something you were trying to do?
The idea of like, I feel like the way The Color Out of Space describes the color is so much more abstract than like sort of the phenomenons in color theory of colors we can't really see. Because there's like the spectrum we see of the electromagnetic spectrum, which goes from like red to blue, ultraviolet, infrared, X-rays, microwaves. Like those are, you can technically call those colors we can't see, but they kind of exist on another plane. Like color is less of a tangible thing in reality than it is something in the brain. So I really liked. I found the story via a list of impossible. No, it was a list of fictional colors I found online, and that was the story that intrigued me the most because I think it knew, like, reading the story, definitely, like, you can tell it was like describing something that can't actually really be witnessed. Sometimes that's something I meditate on, is like trying to picture a fourth primary color, trying to see if I can put that in my head. But with the film, I wanted to take advantage of my clay because I made this in college when I was developing a plasticine recipe from scratch, trying to make my own colors. Because, it's limited what you can get in stores. You couldn't get glow in the dark or glittery clay and whatnot. So my first year, I made a film showing everything I've made so far. And then I was like, all right, what's a good story where I can apply handmade, homemade colors and make something where color is a vital part of the story. And Color Out of Space is the whole story. Is about kind of how that color infects everything. My original idea was because I did want to do like that dichotomy of like the red, or it's like the pink and the blue. My original idea is that the movie would be stereoscopic 3D, and the movie itself would be 2D, but whenever the color shows up, it would be pink in one eye and blue in the other. And I made a trailer that showed that way on like a 3D TV back at school. But for the final version, I just went with flashing back and forth because I don't think many festivals have 3D glasses anymore that much. And the effect doesn't work the same if you're doing the red blue anaglyph. It would just make everything look like it's The Color of the Space. So that was my mindset making this film. It was a lot of fun working, trying to make that effect look good. It was a lot of work editing it together, both in its original form and the form it is now.
How manual was that flashing process when you were editing the film? Like, did you have a mechanism to do it, or did you have to like build that
A
frame?
lot of the time, with Dragon Frame, you can have like multiple exposures per frame.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like one shot where like Nam is like lying on the ground, like all distorted and whatnot. I think I had like 4 different exposures. There was like the beauty shot, then there was like the pink shot and a blue shot, and then there was an extra shot I did where it was I would shine a black light at the Nam figure, and he would phosphoresce. So that would be another option for me in the editing bay, like if I want to use that instead of the red and blue light, to make it look like the color is distinctly coming from him instead of being something applied to him. And I forget exactly what the final product was, what the amalgamation was between those 4 exposures, but I remember that was like a whole like night in one of the animation labs. I was using different just different dimmer switches, just like clicking each of them on and off, because I didn't have a DMX that worked with the lights I had. So I just used like different power strips and whatnot to turn things on and off per exposure.
That's crazy. It's funny, right? You know, like, and for all of these films, you know, this is ostensibly the block of kind of like funny or lighthearted or gross or you know, films like kind of that we've kind of collected all together. But it's the same blood, sweat, and tears that all filmmakers go through to make these, right? I mean, there is no really easy way of accomplishing any of this.
No.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways they're some of the most sophisticated films that we have.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the animation, your animation style with some things being kind of flat elements, like the wire things you did out of wire sculpture, but it's meant to look like a drawing, but then it's actually a 3D like physical thing. So like the doorknobs are all look like drawings, but then you know the characters go up and like turn them, but they're just sort of representations of a 3-dimensional thing, and like half 3-dimensional but like sort of 2-dimensional. And it struck me that was just like a really interesting way to represent just like the doorknob, instead of just, you know, how do you have with a wire frame, you can't just have like the doorknob floating in space, it's got to be connected to something. So that was like an interesting creative way to portray that. So
yeah, that was I was really into like 50s animation while making that film, like UPA and Hanna-Barbera. I really wanted to imitate that style where it's like you have like a loose outline and then a very loose, like you have like a geometric shape that colors it in instead of being all inside the lines. I was looking through my storage and I found some of my old Color Out of Space props here. This was one of the doors I made. You could see kind of how I designed it to be like one contour line. I was looking at like Calder sculptures, trying to like replicate that while making it like look like a cohesive thing. You can see like the doorknob is like at a 90-degree angle, so that when it's like, when it's like in the shot, then it like kind of responds in like a 3D space.
Wow.
that's so cool.
A few others too, but I didn't pull those out. My friend Zoe helped me with a lot of those sculptures too. She was really good at wire design, so we were doing those together for the film.
That's really cool. That's a really interesting way to kind of solve that problem, or to create. It's not a problem, but to create sort of some interest, you know, an element there that's not something you see every day. Yeah,
it was a lot. It was a lot more straightforward than like building a whole. There were definitely giant sets in the film, but like that interior shot where it's just the wire and the backdrop, like something so simple can look good with just like a few colors, just like the line, just like kind of giving the idea of the space.
It's interesting that you talk about the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and I saw the Whisperer guys light up a little bit because I think this is the third film we've shown from you guys, right? And the first one was The Cultist Next Door, which is on our best of
2019,
2019, 2018, 2019, one of those, yeah. And that features a lot of it, a lot of that animation. That is it Mike that's responsible for all of that?
Yeah.
He did those. And very much taking cues from those same kind of Hanna-Barbera cartoons we're talking about, right?
Yeah, definitely. The UPA style animations and old government films. Those were a good inspiration for that.
Yeah, we had a whole night where we just like watched crappy government cartoons and like, you know, Duck and Cover and Sex Education and, you know, just everything we could get our hands on. And Mike just sat there and just was taking notes the whole time, you know, and just basically trying to ape that style. And he, you know, it looks like it looks just as awful as their animation. And that's the beauty of it, is just, it's so good because, you know, the AIP, AIP, AUP, that UPA, that stuff is just awful, you know, and it's so fun to mimic, you know.
Was that, so that wasn't something that was already in your repertoire at that time? That was something you sort of like for the film taught yourself to do?
Yeah, I just like looked at a lot of the style and said, okay, I'll just work in that style.
Both these guys are like incredibly talented artists, and so yeah, and so it's really fun, you know, working with them, because first off, they're like the funniest guys I know, so that's probably why we make horror comedy, is because like we watch a horror film and then just laugh. But they're both just like super visual, and so when we're breaking down something, you know, we can talk in a very visual way, because you know, because we're very visual, you know, artists, you know, to begin with. And so, and if Mike doesn't know how to do something, he'll just go out and learn how to do it. So
that is its own skill. Yeah,
it's always best to do what's best for the film. Yeah. So rather than I try not to push my style onto anything. It's like, okay, what is needed for this shot or this part of the film, and that's what I shoot for.
Yeah, and that's why Whisperer looks so much different than Cultist Next Door as far as the animation style goes. But Mike did both. So, and he did the animation at the end with all the little he called it Portal to Hell.
Yeah, the little like cat.
Yeah.
Animal. Yeah.
And so he did all that too, and it's like it's the same animator, but you would never guess it.
Speaking about that cartoon, is that a thing? Like, is that an existing cartoon, or is that just for this film?
I made it in about 4 hours for that film. I did all 4 voices too.
And then we set my daughter in front of it, and we were just like, you know, working out, you know, doing our stuff. And we just had that on loop. And so I think my daughter saw it for about 15 minutes, and children have that eidetic memory. And every time Mike comes over, my daughter will like walk up,
That's repeating it,
and she'll just repeat the entire thing verbatim. It's like, and we laugh every time because it's funny. So, but
that's, I mean, kids really do that. They really latch on to stuff, and especially when the animation is so cool and funny like that, I think.
Yeah, and she wants more.
It's like, when's episode 2 dropping?
How long is the segment? That's so. I mean, we see only a little bit. Is it longer than that? Is it like a full thing?
It's about a minute. I think.
It's about a minute and a half ish.
Okay.
Yeah,
just enough that we could use it and cut around it. And
yeah, it's about as long as that segment is. Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing I wanted to do was to just basically make sure that the cat splain line was featured in there, And so I had to like really move stuff around to try to make sure that the you know, you don't have to cat-splain everything line, because when he showed that to me, I fell on the floor laughing, because it's just like, that is so genius.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Now, Blaine, you've been the star in all 3 of the films I think we've shown from you guys, right?
yeah.
This must have been a bit of a trial, right? Because sort of the point, and Patrick and I talked about this, sort of the point of the film is to kind of torture Akeley, in the brain cylinder, right? What was delivering on that kind of performance, that kind of like super annoying, super tedious, like, trying to like basically drive this thing in a jar to tears. Like, what was that like versus, the sort of the conventional, the sort of fast moving, funny stuff, right?
Well, usually they have me play the victim in most of these stories. So it was kind of exciting to be the victimizer. And so that was really kind of fun. There is a different pace to it. This is going to sound strange. I kind of was pulling a little Tim Conway and a little Benny Hill.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of the ways that I would mug and some of the ways that I would act. There's a little bit of a Guy Smiley attitude to the guy, but it was a lot of fun. I think the only part that was difficult for me is there's a segment where I go and I pull the switches on the little jar there, and you see my face up close, and I'm talking to it. The cabin doesn't have air conditioning, and it was incredibly hot, and I'm in this suit and I'm sweating and I'm losing my mind, and I couldn't get any of the, and so you'll see lots of weird cuts and stuff from his point of view, which is good because I flipped those switch, but really it was because I was losing my mind while I was delivering those lines. But yeah, there is a little bit of a different pace to it, but it was a refreshing pace. It was fun to be the jerk.
and that shot with the one, it's just one take of him sitting, on the phone and having that conversation. I mean, we had that for the most part all written out, and he just, I mean, Blaine, I think, nails that persona of the person on the bus that you don't want to sit next to. It's just so good, and he hits all the lines, all the points that we needed to go in there, and you think that it's over, and it's like, oh, let me put this in the in the phone, and it's like, and it goes even further, and I think he carries that scene like so well too. So
do tell.
Yeah, playing your facial expressions and your timing and delivery are just like perfect. Who did the voice of Akeley?
Yeah,
that was you.
That was all done live too. And so I sat over there with the sound, and Blaine was right here because we're in the same space. And Blaine would read the lines, and then I had Mike has a Mooger Fooger, which is the exact sound piece that the dialects are made, from
Doctor Who.
From Doctor Who, and in Doctor Who, they did the same thing where you got a guy in the background talking like this into the microphone and delivering the lines live for the actors. And so we're like, that's a great idea, but they did it because they were cheap and couldn't really afford anything, but BBC doesn't have, but we just decided to do it because of artistic vision.
Oh yes, we wanted right flavor in the moment.
Yeah,
I really felt like I was talking to a brain in a jar.
Nice.
Did you hear that guy recently died? The exterminate.
Oh
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean that way I think we got a better. We got a really good performance from Blaine, because he's actually reacting to something rather than, okay, what's my next line, and then I'll say, and then we'll throw this in, and so all of that audio was just plugged right into the recorder, and so we just used that. I didn't go back and redo any of it. It's that's what we're doing. So
Wow.
so it was really, I mean, it was a really fun shoot. Other than the fact that we didn't have air conditioning. I got air conditioning now though, so we're good. We're good. Just in time for winter.
Yay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna ask. I was surprised when Blaine like picks up the jar that it's pretty. It's not as big as I thought it was gonna be, and I guess your brain's not like your whole head. But what was that like? Kind of like carrying that around outside. You did scenes like on the seesaw, and there was like the chicken coop and everything. Did you just have to carry this thing around and talk to it like Hamlet with his skull, or?
Yeah, if Anthony Daniels as C-3PO can talk to an inanimate object with a mask on that he can't even see, I figure I could do that. It was a really amazing prop because it was all self-contained. It had little switches and things that worked. He was kind of my little buddy. It was pretty cool. And we shoot a scene where the film Troll 2 was filmed. That's my childhood home. So I grew up in a town where the worst horror film was ever made. That's where I grew up.
That's actually the set of Troll 2.
So
bite your tongue. Bite your tongue.
You're a citizen of Neilbog?
That's me.
And it's like
that's excellent.
And it's like 2 blocks away from where Mike grew up. So
So you guys were just walking around town doing this, just walking around the neighborhood?
Oh yeah.
So well, we tried to find like interesting things that would drive a brain in a jar. Like what do we find cool that really isn't cool? The burned down set of Trolls 2, or whatever else. Play D&D. It's like sort of there. So
Blaine's performance is so important in the film, right? I mean, it really carries. He's really the only actor that you're interacting with as an audience member, and it's not unlike Christina's film, like in The Pointy Slippers. Like that actress is amazing. She's amazing facial actress, and also her comedic timing is really good and really subtle and really interesting. But she also has this like Sophia Loren kind of vibe, especially at the beginning. Like the whole thing feels a little bit like a perfume commercial, right?
Yeah.
Just at the beginning, before the blister popping and everything.
Yeah.
How did you find her? Is she somebody you knew already, or?
I found Lindsay, so that's Lindsay Segrera, and it was funny because she was sending me a bunch of references for her makeup look, which I totally was on board with, from French New Wave cinema. She was sending me all these Godard girls, and I said, like, perfect. I love the way that the eye makeup looked, and so that yeah, so like Sophia Loren, that reference is definitely on the same like time frame. And I found Lindsay through my friend Jonathan Buckley. He's a casting director in New York City, and it was really interesting because he offered to help, and I sent him the actor breakdowns of what I wanted specifically, and it was obviously a low budget short film, so I didn't have money to pay him. And eventually he came back to me and he said, I'm just super busy and I don't think I can do this right now. And of course I understood, I wasn't going to pressure him to work on this for free. And then I'm, just like getting ready for bed at 11:30 at night, and I hear these pings on my phone, and it's on Instagram, and it's Johnny. I call him Johnny. He's Johnny DMing me. What about her? What about him? What about, and I'm just like, okay, he clearly thinks that this project is, curious enough for him to just like in his sleep cast it basically. And he nailed it for me. I mean, I was looking at a bunch of other actors, you know, in the meantime, and none of them really struck me as much as the two leads that Johnny sent my way.
Yeah, she's really amazing in it, and it's, you know, it has to work without dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, all just face. You know, it's all, and her, you know, her physical body performance with the shoes. You know.
Yeah. And I didn't know this, but she was a dancer. She was a ballet dancer growing up, and I didn't know that until we were, you know, maybe like deep into rehearsal or something, and she mentioned it to me, or we were just talking about the roles, and that was just a great coincidence.
Were the shoes uncomfortable, like the actual shoes?
Well,
they look it.
I bought a pair of backup shoes on Amazon that were like stunt double shoes, I guess. Just because first for the prosthetics, and if we had to reshoot anything, or if we had distant shots but already damaged the shoes, she could wear these doubles on Amazon, and that we got on Amazon. But so the witch was wearing the same shoes she was wearing, but in blue. But the way that I shot it, you can't really tell. And so I wear those shoes in blue sometimes when I go to film festivals. I wore them, actually. I wore them on stage at the film festival in Portland. I did. Yeah, your festival. And they can be uncomfortable at a certain point. And those shoes, those exact shoes were the start of this whole idea, because I saw a girl wearing them and I complimented her, and she said that they actually cut up her feet when she was walking around in them before. It was funny because people, when I tell that story to everyone, they're like, wait, why was she wearing them again if they cut up her feet? I'm like, I don't know, but that was the story she told me. And so clearly these shoes are actually uncomfortable. They are called knife point mules. That's like the actual name that the designer gave this particular shoe. So it was like all the pieces of the puzzle were just falling together for this.
Oh my gosh. They look like the kind of shoes that you have to like hold them onto your foot with your toes. Because if you try to walk normally with them, you would just kick them off, like,
Yeah.
Or at least I would.
Yeah, they're just for like if you're getting dropped off somewhere and going in somewhere.
Yeah. Like, take little steps.
Both, I have two pairs of shoes that I'm, you know, I think everybody at this point knows that that normally every day I'm a t-shirt and shorts kind of guy. But at the film festivals, I like to dress up. I'm a little bit of a showboat, you know, and I always wear the same shoes on opening night. And I've been wearing them now for more than a decade. I wear these shoes twice a year. These red Cuban heel Fluvog.
I noticed them. I noticed them.
And I always get tons of compliments. But the first thing out of my mouth when somebody goes, "Oh my God, those shoes are amazing," is I always go, "They're super uncomfortable." Like, they're very difficult, and they're not really extreme, right? But they're like walking on. They just feel like they're carved out of wood.
It's probably because you haven't broken them in, but they're really pointy. So like the toe box is kind of narrow, and like I don't know, that walking heel is kind of weird.
But
like,
but it's not like they're women's high heel shoes, right? Which I can only imagine are 10 times worse. You know, but I'm like, my feet, you know, because I have to stand around in them for a couple hours on opening night, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you could relate.
But the scene where he picks her up and kind of like twirls her around, I was like waiting for the shoes to come flying off of her.
Crazy that they didn't, right? And they weren't adhered to her or anything. It was just, you know, whatever the makeup was, but it was no glue.
Oh my gosh. With the witch entering the scene, so there's kind of I don't know, it feels like there's like a Wizard of Oz something happening with the like, oh, you've got those shoes and now you're cursed or something. And I don't know, instead of like going home, she just like it's like the opposite. It's like when the house drops on the witch in the beginning of the Wizard of Oz, like her feet curl up and the shoes come off. And then now it's to her. Because after she like dies, the shoes come off, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Is that anything that was
Well,
anything
that's actually what I'm gonna be for Halloween, the Wicked Witch of the East, the one who gets the house dropped on her. Because I did find a pair of Dorothy slippers unused, my exact size, thrifting before I came to the HP Lovecraft Film Festival. So but anyway, I digress. The witch with the blisters on her face, I've always wanted to do in my head, Margaret Hamilton biopic, because she endured so much on the set of The Wizard of Oz with the makeup, and she was in a horrible fire when the witch goes underground in the smoke. They wanted to do a shot, and she couldn't make it in time back to her mark, and the smoke blew up in her face before she could go down below under the set, and she got severely burned, and she couldn't work for a couple of weeks, and was just covered in blisters. And you can imagine what they had to go through back then to rub out the makeup while she had the burns and the blisters on, so her face wouldn't get infected. She had all that green makeup on, and she was only in the film for, I think, a total of 12 minutes screen time. And I've just always been really fascinated with her story and how that character stayed with her forever. And she's always been, categorized as this witch being, and kids are scared of her. And I've always just been so fascinated with her as an actress. And so it was in a way a homage to her a bit, with the blisters on the face, and also the lurking fear, which I feel like is very, very Lovecraftian in a way. Is the witch character for me represents this, this element of fear, almost a premonition of what could be for the lead, if these blisters do get out of hand. And I had to put someone lurking. I'm a huge David Lynch fan, and I just love like a jarring sound effect and a lurking character. So I had to throw that in.
Like the dumpster witch and
Mulholland
Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That was definitely a reference for sure.
I know. I'm sorry, I'm like fading.
Oh, Gwen is fading.
I like my brain just vapor locked for a second, but yeah. Sorry.
You guys are the final recipients of our Q&A, our Q&As after you think that the streaming show would be easier than the in-person show, but it's actually a little bit harder. Partially because we're not just there in person being social. So it's really cool that we're able to do this with you all, that you're able to come on and be part of this. I think we probably should be wrapping up soon, but I want to get to Bryce one more time to talk a little bit about just the style of the film. Like, it's such a mixed media film, and you mentioned you did it as a student, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was your college thesis?
It was my second year film.
Second year.
Or it was made to be my second year film. Then the pandemic changed what the criteria was for a second year film. So what it was before changed later, because I remember at the end of my second year, I was trying to finish the film after the pandemic, but at that point I was like disillusioned by the film. There are a lot of things I wanted to accomplish that I realized into production, like I wasn't really doing as much as I wanted to. For one thing, color wise, I really wanted to, I was trying to do this thing where like it would only be made, the whole color scheme of the film would only be oranges. It'd only be made out of oranges and greens and purples, like all the secondary colors. And if I wanted to see something red or blue, I would combine secondary colors together to make a tertiary color that is like a muted version of a primary color. And the two exceptions would be the color out of space itself, since that's like a bright blue and a bright pink. And also the apple scene. I was trying to find the brightest red for that scene to add contrast. But yeah, by the summer of 2020, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to finish this anymore. And I kind of moved on from it, but I still had the footage. All that footage was just sitting around in a hard drive. And it wasn't until 2023 when I made an edit for my friend Jesse. And at that point, I realized like if I'm going to finish this film, I can either, make all the news scenes from scratch or make the whole thing from scratch, or I can like emphasize kind of the unfinished process, like kind of show, like get silly with all the production art I've made, like instead of like trying to hide it, trying to hide that behind the scenes aspect. A lot of films you don't get to see the storyboards, you don't get to see the design work. So I wanted to see like how much can I put all of the design work in my film? Can I like try to add all of it in somehow, make like a big collage thing? So that was my attempt, and I was trying to like be as disorienting as possible. I would take finished shots and then add something unfinished to it to tie the whole film together, try to make it seem like try to like make it all as chaotic as the production was and as chaotic as the story is, since it's all about deterioration. So there's kind of a parallel reality and narrative thing going on.
Neat. Yeah, I really liked how watching it is not just the experience of watching a finished film, but also sort of a behind the scenes look at the film all at the same time. That was a really interesting way to do that, to kind of pull the audience along on that thread of here's the film, but you're also seeing how it's made. I thought that was cool.
I think the one thing I wish I could have added that I didn't get to was the all of my puppets and whatnot that were in storage, because I just pulled that out recently. I had to finish the film while I was in Oregon, and all my storage was in California. But I did find a lot of my old puppets recently. If I can show those real quick.
Yeah, you can.
Because a lot of them are very deteriorated now. You can see he has no hat, no arms, missing a leg there. But that's Amy. I have the torso and legs of Nam. I have a few heads here of the little girl character, because I did a replacement animation for her, so you can see her mouth. You can see how she has like a wide mouth, a closed mouth, and almost all the way open mouth.
She was great.
She was fun.
It's a color space.
And that was my friend Sienna from CalArts. She was like a fine artist, and she had a good voice for the character. So she does acting to this day. She does shows in LA still. She's like a performing artist. And this is one of the college researchers here. This was one of the earliest puppets I've ever made, like with the full armature and whatnot. There's stuff all over it now. And also you can see the hot glue and the clay, after like 5 years, have like welded together into like a sticky goo there. So these things are pretty gnarly now.
I have one last. Do you have more puppets? Sorry, I mean to cut you off.
I have I guess the one more is like the cows, because I had a healthy cow and the dying cow.
Oh boy.
I think they both got in the film. I'm pretty sure they did.
I did like how the distortion was kind of extreme for the like representing the like just the messed up like I don't know genetic code that rewriting that happened.
Yeah, mutating over time.
Yeah. So I have one last question for all of you. I'm always curious because we talk about films and like how there's so many things that can go wrong, but I always like to know like what was your favorite moment during making the film? Like what was your favorite moment either during filming or during shooting or editing or post-production? It could be any part of it. It was just like a good, really good moment for you.
Yeah. Let's start with Patrick.
For me, it was when Blaine nailed that like 2+ minute, whatever it is, dialogue, because that was crucial. That for me in my head to have one shot of that, just that long, extended, arduous, just goes on forever and ever shot, no cuts, sort of a thing. And when he nailed that, that was just like yeah, okay, this is we can do this now. It come together. What up, Mike?
I in learning some of the animation, like I hadn't really ZBrushed a sculpture before, and then rigged it and animated it. So the Migo character that I got it in, that was a landmark in my own personal animation process.
So yeah, he built
I
that.
enjoyed I enjoyed being able to do that.
Blaine?
Oh, well, just seeing the final animation was really amazing. So that was really fun. There's a cut scene where I'm in front of a dog food factory and I interact with them. And I really enjoyed the dog food factory, and I enjoyed people walking by, looking at me with the prop, having a conversation with a film crew. I loved that. It was great. But it doesn't matter if it wasn't in the film. That was all for me.
And we didn't make him eat anything horrible.
Oh yeah,
this time around.
That was nice. I've eaten paintings. I've had to eat bowls of cereal. I once ate a Dracula cape. It's terrible working for these guys.
Dog food.
Dog food. Yeah, dog food. Oh.
How about you, Christina?
I know. I've been thinking that's like it's a hard question, because there's so many different great moments, but I kind of, just like following up with what was just said, for me it was, yeah, the shot where she was having the exorcism freak out when we were shooting it, in my head, I wanted it to have that drag effect. The style that is seen, either in maybe like, I was like, I want it to be a combination of like stop motion and Tetsuo meets some sort of like Wong Kar-wai, film and scene. And so I had no idea how it could turn out to be the way that it did, but I just trust my cinematographer. So I would say, to answer your question, it was really happy when I was editing it with my friend in Virginia Beach, and just seeing the way that it ended up working out after we had shot it. We shot on film, and we shot at 8 frames per second to like achieve that classic step print look that I guess back in the day when people were like cutting reels of film, they were, like using this technique would make sense, step printing, but we're obviously editing on Premiere. So it was a little bit different, but it just looked better than I could have even imagined. And all these cool shapes were coming out of her face. That, you just like, that's just a cool, gift from the movie gods in my opinion.
That's awesome. What about Bryce?
I think for me, I keep thinking of that first semester of production, because I did all the storyboarding the summer of 2019, And then that first semester, I was learning under like Kike Rivera, Nicholas D'Agostino. They're both great animators. They were great teachers. They really helped me through like the pre-production process, like creating like a solid cohesive design for everything, and like refining like the style, like the kind of animation I wanted to go for. And it's just really meditative sculpting things, like making replacement heads for Amy. Like a lot of the time, I think all the lip sync of that film is like replacement heads, where it'd be like either he has no mouth or like a mid mouth or a giant mouth. Just like kind of like fabricating that stuff from scratch is really fun, and I got to be around amazing, talented people all the time to help me out. Like my friend Pax Nielsen helped. They gave me a set to shoot on because I ran out of time in one shooting studio, so I borrowed Pax's shooting studio after I ran out of time there. And I mentioned my friend Zoe Long before. She was fantastic, helped me out with like some artistic choices, cinematography choices. I'm really thankful for the people I've worked with and the time I've had working that film. I think that's my favorite part, is just like getting it all together. That pre-production process, just like the time where it's not necessarily, you're not headstrong into production, the time before where you're just like premeditating it with people who trying to make people understand what you're going for.
Yeah,
nice.
It's beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. And Christina. And Gail. Guys and Gail.
I was trying to make a concerted effort to stop saying like you guys, hey you guys, and like, because that's just part of my vernacular. And like at the festival, I found myself doing it on stage, and I was like, stop it, stop. Like you, like but I had a very difficult time. Next year I will have erased it from my vocabulary. Well, thank you so much for being with us. You're the last Q&A. This is why we're both drinking, right? And also the longest, because we don't have any other Q&As to do after you. So we appreciate you being here with us and staying up late. Is it late for any of you? Which time zones are we in right now?
Well, we're from Utah, so like everything closed down like 4 hours. Or I don't know, it's Sunday. Everything closed down last night.
Right.
I ain't got
I'm
on the East Coast. I'm on the East Coast, so it is
it's like one.
Yeah, I turned into a pumpkin already. Whatever happens to her. The carriage turns to a pumpkin.
All right. We should let you guys go, but one last thing before we end the stream, please tell our audience where they can find you on the internet. If you've got a website or an Instagram or Facebook that you want to shout out and let people find you there. Bryce.
Oh yeah, I have my business card right here.
Nice.
And you can see my Instagram, my Twitter, and whatnot. That's BryceGB, BRCE. Clear look at that. Also got a QR code here. I don't know if anyone wants to scan that or not, but
yeah. Hold that for a minute.
Hold it up for.
I'll hold it while everyone else talks too.
Okay. Christina, where can people find you?
You can find me. Well, thanks for staying on and watching. Those who are out there, and you can find me with my name, Christina Acevedo _ the name of the film is easy to find online. We have a website, we have an Instagram, Pointy Slippers, and yeah, just Google my name. I'm very accessible. Say hi if you saw the film or follow us.
And Blaine, Patrick, Mike.
Our films are found on YouTube at Chupacabra Productions. And we've got like a whole bunch of stuff that we've done that 4 people have watched, but that's okay. Mike has some art stuff.
Yeah, I have a Instagram as well as a YouTube at Gristle Mill. So if you look, I think I'm the only Gristle Mill.
And then Blaine.
I have an Instagram, and I think it's my name. Blaine Taggart, art of Blaine Taggart, something like that. If you don't find my art, that's okay.
He's got some deviant art stuff too that he'll do. So Blaine Taggart, is it Blaine Taggart?
It's Stano.
Oh, it's Stano. That's right, Stano. Blano Stano.
Rearrangeo.
Who did the rad art behind you? Is that like a poster?
Tapestry.
What am I looking at?
Yeah, it's a blacklight tapestry. So
Oh,
and so I've got like black lights all in here because this is where we watch movies and such. So a screen comes down here, and we got a projector and the surround sound and all that. And so afterwards we turn on the black light because after watching a film, the last thing you want to do is just flip on all the lights and have that happen. So we just got black light. So everything lights up. It's pretty fun. So, but it's the most Cthulhu looking thing I could find on Amazon. So
Excellent. All right. Well,
thank you so much.
Let's let these guys cut these guys loose.
We'll let you loose. Again, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for staying up late for us and answering our many questions for about an hour. You were definitely the longest Q&A, and part of it is because I butted into this one. So Gwen was keeping him nice and tight.
I was trying to keep him short. It's okay.
Thank you so much for your work hosting us.
You
You're
bet.
welcome. Thanks for being here.
We do this because we love it. Because there aren't any other rewards really. you have to love this stuff. You've got to love independent film, and you've got to love talking to filmmakers and the thrill of showing amazing independent films to an audience that is ready to accept them into their brains is wonderful. This is not like going to see the latest Marvel movie or whatever. All of our audience members, they want this. They're about these kinds of films, and it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to do something this unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Thanks for being here, and we're going to I think end the stream. So thanks for being with us, and everyone wave goodbye.
Thank you.
We'll see you all later. Okay, we are off.